If this was 2006, Myspace would have been the biggest thing, along with High School Musical and Tila Tequila. But after all of these years, Myspace has changed from being the top social networking website to a little more than a platform to share your music. But let's go back into the past to our childhood. Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and let's listen to 4 horror stories from our used-to-be favorite website, MySpace. Crazy. This is going back a few years ago. I got rid of MySpace when Facebook came around for the college crowd. Anyways, especially after this situation. As a disclaimer, I don't mess around with girls that I first meet or talk to, but I'll be prepared to take the shit here in this thread. Anyways, started chatting with a chick that went to my college online. She looked pretty cute, so I made contact, which was my first mistake, and we talked over AIM for a couple hours. We were going back and forth, messaging each other, and out of the blue, she starts getting all emotional, telling me how much her life is in shambles. She doesn't see her father that much, her parents are divorced, her ex-boyfriends were all jerks, and how her sex life is down the tubes. To probe information as to why her sex life sucks, I asked some good questions as to why. She can't reach her orgasm, and the guy generally pulls out too quick for her to feel any good. Now, I wasn't that sexually experienced at the time, but pulling out generally means there was a lack of protection. So I ask her, why not use pills? And then she says, because it gives me bad mood swings. Why not have a guy use a condom? Because I don't like latex or rubber or whatever. Aren't you worried of getting pregnant? Whatever happens, happens. Now, me being the laid-back type of guy that I am, is trying to take this all in stride. But you know that feeling in the pit of your stomach that just screams, log the fuck off, or fake a power outage? Well, it's screaming at a foghorn level right now. And I, being the moron I am sometimes, ignore it and continue to chat. Then, oh sweet lord, she starts saying how overly horny she is, how she wants to be screwed right now, and I better get my ass over there right now or she's going to cry her eyes out and it'll be all my fault. Remember the foghorn I mentioned before? It just turned into a jet engine level sound. Moving on. Then, she sends me pictures of naked women, with her face photoshopped onto it, and no, I didn't keep them. Not just 1 or 2, but 10 to 20. By now, I'm getting a little freaked out, so I quickly made a quick comment. Oh, sorry it's late, I have to go. Early AM work tomorrow. I'll talk to you later. Now, about 2 days later, I get a message via MySpace. She is asking if we can meet up at school sometime this week. Once again, being the dumb, young, probably curious as well. Plus, it was a public meeting space, so the chances of me getting stabbed or shot was pretty low, so I said yes. We meet up, and just based on looks, the pictures on her page didn't do her any justice. I can tell she's batshit eating crazy, like Looney Tunes' new character type. Well, the little bitch or whatever practically ignores me the whole time and talks to some random guy that walks by. The clock didn't go fast enough for me for my next class, but I finally walked, or more like jogged, to my class to get there 20 minutes early. Last I heard, she met some older guy, 30s, not surprised really, and is currently dating him. But that was going back a couple years ago. Facebook is much, much safer. A year or so ago, I met a woman on MySpace. We started emailing each other and talked on the phone once or twice. She wanted me to meet her at her house for our first face-to-face meeting and bring my ATV. So one Sunday morning when I showed up on her front porch, a dude answered the door. He said my name and shook my hand and introduced himself as her husband. He was the one who was emailing me, and she obviously was the one I spoke to over the phone. They were swingers. Sort of. Threesome seekers. He liked watching other guys do his wife. Oh, and by the way, he was fixing breakfast for their 2 kids at the time. Fake online couple. A guy I played an MMO with got into an online relationship with this chick who also played. She used this picture of a really hot young blonde chick. Went on for about a year. They even faked meeting up so people would take them seriously. She went as far as making fake Myspace pages of her friends to seem more real. Someone decided to do a little detective work of their own and found out that she was actually a 40-something-year-old fat nasty hag. The pictures that she used was of her own niece. Just rummaged through the old message boards to dig up these foul pics. I can't find the fake pics she used though. I never wanted to be his Juliet. This goes back when MySpace was pretty popular, and online dating was becoming more commonplace. Regardless, I was still pretty cautious with who I added and what people could view. Enter Michael, or what we'll call him in the story. He sent me a friend request, and at first I thought I should reject it. But we had a mutual friend, and I figured he couldn't be too bad. He was cute. So, I accepted. Within minutes we were chatting, and the conversation flowed quite well. We hit it off quite well, probably a little too well now that I look back at it. Anyways, we chatted for about a week and decided to meet up. I chose a public place and brought along one of my best friends. He was a perfect gentleman. Even my friend, we'll call her Laura, was completely enamored by Michael. She thought he was amazing and gushed about it the whole way home. Laura kept telling me that I should date him and that she was so happy I was finally moving on from my ex. 3 days after we met, we went on our first official date. It was actually really nice. He was attentive, he listened, and he was sweet as sugar. He drove me home, and on the way he told me how much he was beginning to like me. I couldn't believe that this guy was so into me. I was on cloud 9. I was stupid. Oh well. We get to my house, and he looks at me and asks if I would be his girl. I agreed, and he kissed me. We said goodnight, and I went inside. As soon as I got in, I had a text from him telling me how happy he was. Okay, that's sweet. I responded the same, and went to bed. I woke up the next day to sex texts and 2 missed calls from him. That should have been my clue, but I chalked it up to him being nervous. I told him I would wait up until he got home. I didn't, so I let it go. This went on for a few weeks. I finally told him I felt it was weird that he freaked out so easily if I didn't respond fast enough. He said he was sorry, and we moved on. That day, he told me he loved me. Alright, that was a bit fast, but sure, why not? I said it back. Big mistake. From that point on, he said it every minute of every day. It was overwhelming and odd, but I let it go. Now for the creepy stuff, I never told Michael where I worked or where I went to school. It never really came up. One day I walked into my work and found flowers. I was the only female working there, so I knew they were for me. They were from him. Okay. I sent him a thank you and dropped it. Then he started showing up at my school. He would wait for me in the parking lot. I got really creeped out and asked him how he knew. He told me that Laura and him talked and she told him. I shrugged it off because it seemed plausible. I really should have asked her though. Then it got worse. Michael and I made tentative plans one evening, but one of my good friends wound up having a huge meltdown. Her fiance just got deployed, and since I had been through it, she needed me. I asked Michael if we could reschedule and told him why. He started crying. Yes, crying. I talked to him and calmed him down and told him I would stop by the firehouse on the way home. He was a firefighter. He seemed fine, so I went on with my night. Little did I know he was blowing up my phone. I had a total of 27 texts and 11 missed calls from him, each with a voicemail. Every voicemail was more and more angry than the last. Stupid me. I went to the firehouse. He cried to me about how it hurt him so much that I didn't want to spend the night with him. I pointed out that we had spent all our free time together and that sometimes I needed my friends too. He didn't like that, but it seemed as if he accepted it anyways. He did not. For another 2 weeks, he would react the same way anytime I'd made plans with a friend without him. I had enough. I sent him a message that I wanted to talk that night. We met up, and I told him that we were done. He told me no, and that he wouldn't let me break up with him. I gave up trying and told him the drama was just too much and that he needed to ease up. Fast forward a week, things were worse. I finally called him and broke it off again. This time I hung up when he said no and blocked his number. I got off work and walked out to my car. I had a note from him. It said, "You will always be my Juliet. I won't let anyone else be your Romeo." I freaked out. I went to a night lab school and I made sure I walked out with a friend when we finished. I knew he would be there. I didn't see him, so I sighed with relief and drove home. I got into bed, and my phone started ringing. It was a new number. I didn't pick up because I never do it for numbers I don't know, but it wouldn't stop. I finally answered. It was him. He was drunk and outside my house. He started to tell me that I needed to come outside and agree to be his one and only, or he would destroy my car and then kill me. I told him I was going to wake up my father and call the cops. He told me both myself and my father would be dead before they got there. I bolted up and ran to the door. Good. They were locked. I should have been calling the cops, but I was in the moment and scared. I told him again that he needed to leave before things went too far. Surprisingly, he listened. The next day, I found notes and roses all around my car. All the notes just had "My Juliet" on them. Nothing more happened that day, but the next day I kept getting messages from him, pleading for me to take him back, or I would suffer. He told me he will make sure we became the modern-day Romeo and Juliet, because if he could not have me, no one would. I called the cops. They told me there was nothing I could do because it wasn't a clear threat. and he hadn't caused me any harm. Really? So I called his mom. I told her everything. She promised me she would take care of it, and thanked me for telling her. Three months went by, and I was preparing to move. I got a weird note inside my locked vehicle. It said, "Juliet, you can run, but never hide." It's been a few years. I've moved a few times. Every time I go to visit my parents, I always find a note. He always knows when I'm there. I don't know how. And I don't know why. I know him and Laura talk on occasion, but her and I are no longer close because of that. I talk to her twice a year, and I make sure she never knows when I will be there. Last time we talked, he's apparently engaged. I went on a visit a couple months ago, 4 months after he got engaged, and every day I was there was always a note. I was thinking about moving back to my home state, but I don't think I will. His last note was, "Eternity will be ours, my Juliet." I still have a few notes, in case I ever need to prove anything to the cops or something. The guy is beyond crazy. I wish I never made a Myspace page.